secretary.
That's key, I think, because let's be honest, this club isn't too serious. Well, not with you at chairman either. So
not my end of it.
So yeah, social. It's not really. I don't think it's really a done thing in cycling clubs. Really, like I think they do have someone that organises the Christmas do and stuff, but that's kind of about it. But I think we can take it to the next level, rugby style. You know,
nice.
We can have like that kangaroo court and everything in this.
Oh yeah, like on the Lions videos.
Yeah, I'm into that.
This
I'm all
could
over
get dangerous. You're going to be in a right state. If you get on the wrong end of a kangaroo court, I've seen you on an ordinary night out, let alone a kangaroo court.
True. I'll happily take that role, actually, till we get somebody else in. I feel like I need to add something.
Okay. What sort of qualities do you think our social secretary needs? Like, they need to be creative, don't they?
Yeah, they definitely got to be creative. I think, yeah, got to be creative.
Right on.
Maybe I shouldn't take this role, but...
You sound terrible at this job. Are you doing that thing that I do sometimes? Like, I do the washing up really badly so that I don't get asked to do it again. It feels a little bit like you're trying to do a terrible job at being social secretary so you never get asked again.
I do that with cups of tea. No, I think all I'm thinking about is actually the nights out and the beers. But I think you need to be organised as well, really. So, you know, you've got to be able to get onto people. You know, like when you organise a stag, there's nothing worse than organising a stag, is there? Nobody's getting back to you, and
nightmare.
You got to sort out like deposits and bloody like enough rooms for everyone, and then people drop out, and then people actually I rescind that offer. We'll have to get somebody else in.
Right, if you fancy being the social secretary for the GTCC, get your applications in. Email us at gtcc@crowdnetwork.co.uk. So we want your credentials. And I think really, G, we want ultimately what this person is going to bring to the role.
Yeah, most definitely. What are you going to add? It's going to be unpaid, but we want you to work it like you're being paid millions, because this is probably one of the most important roles.
I've got this feeling that when people look back at my chairmanship of the GTCC, like if they, it's rubbish, but also they'll just say he was a very good allocator of his job to other people. Like, he didn't actually. What did Fordyce actually do as chairman apart from make other people do his job?
I say that about your previous job as well. What did you do at the BBC?
Right, let's go on with the show. Enough insults.
Right, Tom, so last week you properly ambushed me with that Crashes episode, so I've taken the lead this week, and I've chosen something which I'm pretty good at, because I needed a bit of a pick-me-up, something to make me feel a bit better. So I've gone with time trials.
Oh, nice. I always think the time trial is a very British institution. Like, we love time trials in a way that there's a bit of snobbishness about them on the continent sometimes, isn't there? Like, there's something wrong with just going out on your own on a dual carriageway outside a satellite town on a summer's evening, as if there's something wrong with that.
I don't know if it's because I've lived on the continent, but I'm kind of inclined to think like that as well, though, to be honest. Getting up at 5 o'clock in the morning to ride up and down an A road doesn't really fill me with joy. But, you know, what's the history with TT in the UK? Isn't it like they banned road races, so then people have to get dressed up in black kit and go out and just... So actually, when you know the history of it, it is pretty cool, actually, to be fair.
So that is exactly it, isn't it? You weren't allowed mass starts or mass participation in British cycling races. I think it was some sort of road safety lobby or something like that. So the only way you could do it was to meet... It's almost like the early rave scene where you'd find out about where a rave was by phoning someone. They'd give you a code word. It's like that with TTs, isn't it? Because all the big roads, they're not known as like, you know, the A50 from Knutsford to Chelford. They've all got secret code words, haven't they?
I don't know. I've never done one with a secret code word, to be fair. But I did do one on a tandem with Luke Rowe.
Who went in front and who went behind?
Well, it was Luke Rowe's dad, actually.
He's probably done better out of that deal than you have, I'd say.
Yeah, I think I was only about 14 at the time.
Okay.
But, yeah, I think I did drag him round. He was on the front, so I pushed him round.
The other thing about time trialling, right, from my perspective, and the people I know who ride bikes rather than you elite lot, is that it's the most amazing excuse to get a load of gear that you'll use twice a year.
Yeah. Oh, it is some nice kit in there. Like, you know, if you go and you just go into a bike shop, it might sound a bit nerdy now, but not that I go into bike shops these days anyway, but, you know, if you just see a nice pair of wheels or, you know, some... I remember when I had Chanel Angels, they were like time trial bars. It was my first pair of like proper time trial bars, and it was on the track. I absolutely loved them. I was just like, I'm the bomb here. So yeah, and the kit, like the skin suits, when you just feel faster wearing a skin suit. But bearing all that in mind, there's nothing worse than seeing someone go 25k an hour with an aero helmet on, a skin suit and stuff. It's like, mate, that's not doing anything for you. You need to go at least 45 plus to get any advantage with that.
I think there's something worse. And that's someone who turns up for a club ride, like a nice 3-4 hour ride on a Sunday, in an aero helmet with a visor.
Yes. Yeah. That's one rule we're going to have in this club. You can't be doing that.
When you join us on our club rides, please do not wear an aero helmet. And if you do, detach the visor in advance.
Yeah, especially if you're on the turbo with that on. That is not a look.
All right, people, Sideman here to tell you about an epic podcast that you need in your life right now. Here's how it goes. We all know 2020 was an awful year.
This is the worst crisis for a generation.
But thankfully, one man, and me, had a plan to end it on a high.
Do you want to be good or do you want to be great?
That's Rick Lewis, one of Britain's most influential businessmen. Yes, I'm intelligent. I teamed up with a millionaire in 2020. And this was the plan.
Pay attention.
For 12 weeks, Rick Lewis was the mentor.
The only person stopping you is usually you. No one is playing man-to-man defense on you in your life.
We gave 3 young people an hour a week and access to £5,000 each to make a difference to their lives.
I just want to set a realistic goal and just look towards a better 2021, because 2020, oh my days, this year has been messy.
So that's the mentor, 12 weeks, £5,000 and Rick Lewis. I'm sure you want to find out what happens, and you want to hear more of that silky smooth American accent? And who doesn't want free advice from a millionaire? Go and search The Mentor in all your usual podcast places. Trust me, you'd be stupid not to. See ya!
Okay, so Tom, time to introduce our 5th guest of the pod. We've mentioned him before already briefly. Seeing this is a TT pod, I thought I'd go for the top. I couldn't get that guy, so I can't. But we've still done pretty well. Former hour record holder, 2-time world champion, won a stage of every Grand Tour, maybe even worn the leader's jersey in every Grand Tour.
Yep.
There we go. He has. So, welcome to the pod, Rowan Dennis.
Thanks for having me.
Good guess, G.
Well, I try.
You'd go second best, mate. Who's the first? Who's your first?
Well, I was saying second to be polite. You were probably 3rd or 4th, actually.
You told me that Ghana doesn't speak very good English, otherwise we would have had him.
Yeah, Ghana, Dowsett, who else? Froome, Dumoulin. They're all busy, so...
We go.
Yeah.
Right, there's so much I want to know about time trialling, you two. The first thing is, how well do you know a course before you do it?
Oh, fairly well, depending on what it is. So I'd say if it's a prologue in a Grand Tour, or a Grand Tour TT that's decisive for I don't do GC anymore. We'll probably recon it before we get to the Grand Tour. But if I'm honest, there's not many time trials mid Grand Tour that I've reconned. I recon it in the morning, and they're not usually too technical. So there's a couple of corners you might have to check out twice.
It's completely different when it comes to the Worlds, though, for you, though, hey? I remember chatting, like, when we were in the Giro, and we were chatting about when we were going to turn up to the Worlds. I think the Worlds was on the Friday. I was like, oh yeah, just fly in Wednesday, couple of laps Thursday, and then crack on. And you were like, nah, mate, I'm going in Sunday. Riding it every day.
Yeah, there was not a whole lot to look at this year, but so I could have done what you did. It probably would have been a better option, to be honest with you, so I don't sit around the hotel for 5 days before. But a time trial like Yorkshire, that was quite technical. So knowing the course perfectly with those small roads, you know what they're like. You don't want to be going into a corner thinking, do I have to brake or not? And you just don't want that at the back of your head. So 5 days for something like Yorkshire, which was quite technical, then yeah, I think that's perfect. But this year, your approach was definitely...
Do you like a technical course?
Yes and no. If I'm on, yeah. If I'm not, there's no way I want to be on a technical course. It's one of those things where if you've got the flow of the course, you're flying, and if you don't, it's just an absolute pig of a day. You don't want to be on the bike at all. You just every corner you're in and out, jumping. You feel like you're just trying to find speed when you've got nothing.
Yeah, technical as well can be like the undulations as well, can't it? Like how you actually ride it rather than just corners. So for instance, you know, it could be headwind sections, drags, hard climbs, fast descents. Like there's a lot that goes into a TT really in there when you actually get into the thick of it.
There's a lot, and it gets really technical and can be really boring.
And you can overthink it, I guess, no?
You can overthink it, and I think the boring side of it is that you try to make it as boring as possible. So it sort of simplifies it as much as possible. So you just, okay, this is the power I have to hold on this climb for how long? Perfect. This downhill, this flat. It's very measured. It's just a slightly more technical track race.
They always seem really adrenalised from the outside. There's something about, you know, when you see downhill skiers and they're in the start gate and something about the beep, beep, beep just adds to it. And then you guys get that in a TT. Like you're being held by an official and you're in all the cool gear and then the beep, beep, beep. That, I imagine it always does something to your heart rate. Your heart rate just jumps up a bit more when you hear those beeps.
Just before we get onto the beeps, talking about the person holding you, sometimes you get some right wallies holding you up, especially in a team time trial when there's 9 or 8 of you now. Oh my goodness me. To get 8 people that can actually hold somebody up straight, it's hard going.
The worst is when actually I'm gonna sidetrack a little bit, is when someone's holding you and you need a fart.
I can't say I've ever had that, but
I really need a fart right now. I'm not going to do it, but this is really uncomfortable. But yeah, that usually gets the old blood pressure up a bit. You're like, this is not good.
If you've had bicarb as well, you don't want to risk a fart then.
Yeah, I've had that end badly for me.
The thing is, you're in a skin suit as well, so there's nowhere for a fart to go.
Oh, it goes out. That's where it goes.
So sorry, back to the beeps.
Yeah, the beeps for me is I just count down. Usually I don't go out too hard either. I just look at my power meter and I'm at probably 50% of my maximum sprint off the start line. So you don't want to lactate up too much, and then you want to settle into your threshold as soon as possible when you get the speed. So, and it doesn't look like it is, but everything is very calculated.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, especially, time trialing for sure. But with the beeps that give me shivers when I hear them, or not shivers, but really get the adrenaline going, is when I think about the track days. Like a team pursuit, I can't go really fast off the start line, and I'd have to really be concentrated and full on for that start just to get on the back, just to get with the boys the same speed as them. So those beeps were all in. But once it comes to the road, it's so much more controlled, and you got a 50-odd minute TT in front of you. You don't have to rush out the gate.
You don't win in the first 10 strokes.
Exactly.
So this idea of threshold, right? Threshold is normal for you two, and it's normal for all elite riders. For a lot of people listening to this, for people like me who just ride their bikes for fun, threshold means nothing. So explain what it is, why it's so important.
There's a few different thresholds, I'd say. So there's a real typical one, which is the one you can hold for 1 hour.
That's the pace you can hold, the effort you can hold for an hour.
The power you can hold for 1 hour. So 400, for Ghana's probably 460. In a perfect world, your threshold's 400. It's for 1 hour, you do a 1 hour TT, you want to hold exactly 400. If it's dead flat, straight and whatnot. But obviously then you're looking into what you can do up hills and then where you need to recover. So in the end, you try to really nail that 400, but there's going to be some zeros and over and under in there as well.
As Rowan said, you want to average 400, but then on the climbs, you want to be doing 420, 430, because then on the downhills, you're going to be doing a lot less than 400. You got corners, as Rowan said, and where you're not pedaling. So there's a lot that goes into it, and it's easy to overcook it as well. So I think the more you do, and the specialists like Rowan and Garner and everyone else we've mentioned, that's where they can really sort of nail it compared to someone who just rocks up and does it with big power, basically.
I want to know all about the little tricks now as well. So you always hear of these things that you guys know. You guys who are good at TTs, the little things you can do. There's the technical stuff, we'll talk about that in a minute, but there's the dark arts of time trialing. How close you can get to a TV motorbike, maybe having a team car a little bit cheeky, a bit close up to you? What are the things you can do?
Unfortunately, I've never actually had the TV motorbike give me any help. As much
You need
as
to be
people-
Italian. If you were Italian, you'd be laughing, wouldn't you?
Yeah, well, maybe I can blame that on why Garnica is so fast. Every race was in Italy for him this year. But yeah, I actually there's one trick I have to really minimise the stuff I have to think about in a time trial. Is we always have a motorbike in front of you to make sure, obviously, the path is clear. And one thing I do is basically follow where that motorbike is. They usually take the perfect line around corners or pretty close to it. And more or less, you just eliminate that thought process and you don't have to think about it. You just worry about going hard.
Yeah, talking about motorbikes, I actually, 2012 Giro d'Italia, final stage, I was absolutely flying. I was on one of those days. I was second. I was like, oh well, yeah, good effort. And I got beaten by Marco Panotti. He beat me by about 20 seconds. Later that night, he tweets his power profile and stuff, and I averaged about 20 watts more. And I'm pretty, what we say, slippery. I go through the air, I'm not very, I'm aero. That's what I'm going for. I'm pretty aero. So I was thinking, how the hell did he do 20 watts less than me and still smash me by 20 seconds? Anyway, everyone afterwards was sending me videos of him right up the arse of this Italian motorbike. Final stage of Giro, he's Italian himself. So it's a touchy point, that, Tom, so thanks for bringing it up.
There's amazing stories, aren't there? I think it was Francesco Moser when he won the Giro in 1984, and he was up against Laurent Fignon, and Fignon is convinced that the TV helicopter, when they were filming Moser, went just behind Moser and tilted a bit, so they were like, whew, blowing him along, and then when Fignon's out in the road, he's convinced they just went in front of him and blew him back because he was French.
It's a pretty good helicopter driver, if you ask me.
Yeah, particularly in narrow streets in a little Italian city.
Yeah, I doubt that was actually what happened, but maybe he's watched a few movies.
What about in a TT when there's like loads of crowds and stuff? Do you still take, a proper racing line? You're right up against the barriers or something. Would you give yourself a bit of space, or are you just all in?
Well, the one that really comes to mind is 2015 Tour de France, that opening prologue. I didn't think about anybody but getting around that corner, all the corners. There was one I did nearly I just turned in too early and had to readjust mid-corner, but I don't really think about it. I just go, okay, that's the barrier, don't hit it. If someone's hanging over, it's just...
Take their head off. It's their fault.
Well, take my head off. I hope I don't hit them, but hopefully they move if they're hanging over and I'm about to hit them. Otherwise, it's going to end bad for me, I reckon.
That is one thing that's a lot easier, is actually doing it. When you're going around the corner and you're thinking, I'm well in control here, I could have got an extra K an hour quicker. But then when you're watching on TV, you could be like, holy shit, how is this guy... He is just all like, it's a lot worse watching, isn't it, than doing it yourself?
Also in the car.
Yeah.
Richie Port has jumped in behind me before and he said that I never want to do that again. Never. That was the scariest thing I've ever fucking done. He's like, there's for sure, I thought you were going to just crash into something. There's no way you got around those corners sometimes, but he said, I don't want to do that before a time trial. It scares me, and then I don't go into corners properly myself, so... Yeah, it looks completely different when you're not doing it yourself.
Is it all numbers for you two? Because, Geraint, you have ridden time trials when your power meter's not been working, haven't you? Quite recently.
I did the Worlds without a bloody Garmin, didn't I? The power meter, so that wasn't very... The thing is, right, it's like people always go like, oh, you should be able to do it without a power meter anyway. They did it in the 70s, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, well, get a carpenter around your house, take all his... rulers off him and tell him to bloody cut a piece of card for there, or wood, whatever. And he'll get close, but it won't be perfect, will it? And that's what it's like trying to do the World Champs without a Garmin. I just went down the start ramp and you just go in and you've absolutely no idea, like, because in your head, like Rowan was saying, you have your structure of how you want to race. So you want to do X amount of watts up this drag. You use it also, well, I use it a lot to stay focused, because it's easy for your mind to wander in a TT, especially on a long, flat, maybe slightly downhill section, and before you know it, you could be doing 250 watts when you're supposed to be doing 380, so you've got to be really on it all the time. So I use a Garmin a lot for that sort of thing. So it was frustrating for sure, but it is just riding a bike at the end of the day, isn't it? But it's really handy to have that feedback.
Also, overpacing, overreaching at the start.
100%, yeah.
You feel like Superman in the first 2 minutes. You're like, oh, this is awesome. Then that's the best thing I ever did was I had my power meter or my computer behind the seat for a while, and I realized how dumb it was because I still kept obviously the file, and I looked at it, I'm like, wow, that was stupid. You felt so good in the first couple of minutes and you averaged 500 watts or something in a 40-minute time trial. So just lactate, full lactate. Then I had to try clear it and then get back to what I was supposed to be doing. And it just ruins you. Come the last 5-10 minutes, you're just absolutely hands and knees. And you're just like, what the hell happened? You can't breathe. You're just suffering. Everything's hurting. You're like, why did I just do that? That was just stupid.
Like, that's the thing on the track. You don't need it because you get feedback every lap, and that's what you used to. That's how you train. But obviously, when in a TT, it's definitely handy for, the main thing, holding back and then staying focused, I think.
So what hurts first when you're doing a TT? Is it the back of your neck from trying to hold the aero position? Is it just lactic creeping through your quads and then into the small of your back?
Well, I find my breathing if I'm not on. So the first thing, and the heart rate goes up as well. So if I don't have a good day, which... well, most of my time trials this year haven't been a good day, to be honest with you. The first thing I notice is that my breathing's off, and then it gets short, then the heart rate goes up, then the head goes. Then everything else starts to hurt, and you're like, what am I doing? Then your gears go high. And so start pushing a bigger gear, getting into the low 80 cadence, and you just get bogged down. That's basically the spiral downhill for me.
Yeah, for me, again, I don't know, what's the first thing to go? It probably is my neck and back because it's so extreme position, compared to normal. But obviously, like we were saying about climbing on the first episode, the more you do, the more efficient you get and the better you get at it. And that's why, like I said before, Rowan and the likes are so good at doing that. And like every time, one thing that Paul Manning, I rode Beijing Olympics with him, and he used to be the women's endurance coach on the track, GB national team. And he always said to me, you need to be like a swan. So your upper body just rock solid, but then underneath, their legs are just going mental, aren't they? Like going along the pond. And that's the same in a TT. You want your legs to be going, whatever, 95, 100 RPM, but up top, your ass to your head, just rock solid. And it's great to watch then, isn't it? It's just, there's nothing better actually than watching a good time trialist just ride at 60k an hour and it looks like they're going 20, with no effort.
So let's talk through some of the little things that make a difference. So you guys will obviously try and maximise your speed by using different bits of equipment. So if I go through a list, can you give us a rough idea for people who never ride an elite TT, how many seconds over, say, 10 or 20k each one of these would make? So I'm going to start you off with, let's say aero lid.
Rowan, don't tell him too much now. Let's keep the secrets in the team.
Oh, hello.
Just be interesting, be vague. Be vague. Very vague. Be beige.
Well, aero lid. So the differences between them are huge, depending on your position. But on that, my previous team versus the cask that I rode at Worlds in Yorkshire and this year, there was a 2.5-3% difference in drag, just if you isolate that one thing. So I wouldn't know the time difference, to be honest with you, but 2 to 3% is quite significant. And that's just between aero helmets. So if you put a road helmet on, you may as well just admit defeat.
You may as well sit up and coast in. What about an aero sock?
See, I've heard different things about this. So I've heard because over socks, because your feet are going round so quickly, there's there's so much turbulence there that it doesn't make too much difference anyway. But what do I know?
The big thing is that you want to reduce or help with that turbulence on the most turbulent things.
Oh, okay, so it's probably the most important then. Shows where I'm going wrong. Bloody hell.
So it's actually the most important thing is first body position, then skin suit, helmet, and then overshoes.
Really? Before bike?
Bike is minimal.
Really?
Wow. Apart from Pillarello, that's really aero. I'd go out and buy one of them.
The Bollard TT, definitely better than anything I've ever ridden.
What about the leg shaving? If you're in a skin suit, but let's say you hadn't shaved your legs, how many seconds is that saving you? Or is that purely aesthetic?
I've won time trials with real hairy legs.
That's my single favourite quote of your entire podcast so far, G.
Yeah. I think the thing with hairy legs as well, though, or shaving your legs, it's a lot to do with crashing and stuff as well, with bandages and ripping them off and just keeping your legs clean as well. When you use a lot of oils and things, either to keep your legs warm or just shiny and looking good.
I was going to say, you're just trying to look good, mate. There's nothing but you trying to look good.
Did you ever do that as a junior? I used to put baby oil on them just so they were shiny and thought, oh yeah, I look good here.
Yeah, look at this. I get more rippage now. Look at this. I got one calf muscle. Yeah, but the crashing part is the main reason for shaved legs, and a lot of Europeans. Well, in BMC, I rolled up to Torino and I had full hairy legs for the team time trial, and I actually forgot to shave my legs the night before, and I was just sitting there and I looked down and I've gone, oh, shit. And Stefan Kung's gone, what? I'm like, yeah, I didn't shave my legs. And they were pretty bad. And he's like, no. He was stressing out. I'm like, she'll be right. No worries. He's like, no, you shouldn't be doing that. I'm like, she'll be right. Don't stress. But I think it's an old school sort of thing. I don't think it makes a huge difference, to be honest with you, aerodynamically anyway. But
rugby players shave their legs now, though, Tom? For some footballers?
Yeah, I think that is purely to show off muscle, isn't it? There's no practical element to that at all.
No, isn't it when they have to strap their legs as well?
Oh, with rugby players, yeah. If you're putting tape on and taking tape off your thighs every time.
Good point.
That would hurt.
What about number pinning? So amateur time trialists, and there's a lot of them in Britain because there's such a big scene, obsess. Like, let's say you're on Twitter and you're watching a TT in a Grand Tour. There's certain people on my Twitter who will always chirp up with, what are they doing with that number pinning? That is a disgrace.
Lower to better. So almost on your chamois, almost. An old school trick was you scrunch the number up if it's paper. Scrunch it up so it doesn't catch the wind as much. So it actually does help and it sits flatter on your back as well. So we should just get them and just scrunch them, open up, scrunch them, and then pin them on. That's a real junior amateur thing that we used to do, but nice. It actually it does work.
I used to pin them on from the inside as well sometimes. So the actual pin was on the inside.
Ah.
Do you get me? So, yeah. I used to offer it to the boys. I was like, give me €10, I'll pin yours in from the inside.
You're always wheeling and dealing, aren't you? You're always trying to make it back on the side.
No one took me up, but yeah. We have the pockets now, though, Tom, most of the skin suits. Yeah. So it's changing.
What about because you've obviously got your team skin suit, what happens if you were to go into yellow just before a TT? Right, do you get do you have a spare yellow skin suit in the team? Does that make sense? Or do you have to send out to someone to sort of seamstress to try and knock you one up? Or are you using some rubbish one the organisers are giving you?
G's got more experience in this.
Well, in 2018, they actually come to your hotel the night before and fit you out properly, nip tuck here and there. But I think, to be fair, the tour ones, the people that make those skin suits, they're actually pretty good. I don't know how they compare, but I think even if they are 2-3% worse, you get more of a boost for just being in yellow, really, and in the position to win the Tour de France. So it didn't affect me at the time, but maybe if I'm in yellow again and I lose the Tour because of it, then I'm definitely blaming the skin suit.
You know how that goes, mate.
Actually, saying that, 2012, the team did actually make their own yellow one, and I don't think they told ASO, the Tour de France organisers, before they used it. And Brad obviously had it, and they did something really, like, maybe the Lecoq Sportif emblem was upside down. It was something like
it was backwards.
Backwards, is that what it was? And it just stood out, and like straight away they're calling Dave and like, what the hell is this skin suit, blah blah blah. So Yeah, it worked all right for him in the end, though, didn't it?
Brad's always making headlines, isn't he, mate? He's always trying to...
Isn't he just?
Well, maybe that, mate, because there were 3 long time trials in that tour, weren't they? It was a very TT-ish tour. So, look, maybe it's worth the call from the commissaires and that Dave Brailsford has to soak up a bit of an angry French chat because he knows his man's going to be in yellow on the Champs-Elysees.
Well, it's nice to see some TTs coming back to the tour now. In 2021, there's 2 half-decent length TTs, because before that, since Brad won in 2012 until 2021, they've just been decreasing the TTs in the tour. And they're even, the ones they put in are like finishing a Planche de Belfi, which
it's not a time trial, is it? No.
Not at all. But so it's good to see them coming back.
Mate, you're a climber and a time trial. You shouldn't be complaining about that.
No, I want to see more TTs.
Yeah, we all do. I want to bring back the team time trial. Why not?
Yeah, well, to be fair, being purely selfish here, I'd rather an individual one because I got more chance of putting time into someone like Yatesy, who has a good team. So they'd even got the chance of beating us in the team time trial. Whereas if it was individual, then I'd definitely put time into him. So,
oh mate, they wouldn't beat us now. Come on, don't be stupid.
No, if we had our best TTT lineup, yeah, that would be a good team.
The nightmare in your team surely is if you're one of the climbers. So let's say you're Egan Bernal and you've got you two and you've got Ghana. Like, I mean, the poor lad's got to try and hang on to you machines. It's ridiculous.
I reckon actually he's not too bad at time trialing. I reckon someone, and might come back to bite me, someone like Pavel or Dylan Van Baal with team time trials, it's all about sort of that peak power and being able to recover from that peak power and then do it again. Whereas someone like Dylan, he's super strong, super domestique, but he doesn't have that punch. So he can sit on his threshold all day, but if you try to make him go 100 watts more or 150 watts more, it's going to hurt him a lot more than what it will hurt someone like me or Garner, who probably train that specifically, and G a little bit. He doesn't train it probably as much as us, but it comes down to, it's like Mickey Shah was like that as well. Super strong, get in a team time trial, and people are like, why isn't he so good? Why isn't he any good? I'm like, well, he can sit on that high tempo threshold all day, almost all day. But as soon as he goes above it, it just kills him. So Bernal, I think he's actually not too bad for a climber.
Yeah, he has got a good bit of punch, Bernal, but it's got to be... Luckily, I've always sort of had that punch from the track. It's sort of drifted away over recent years. But, yeah, I can't imagine some of those guys who go into a TTT just absolutely crapping themselves thinking, I could get dropped in the first 5K here, and this is a 35K TTT. Like, there's been times when people... CJ Sutton, fellow Aussie of Rowan's, he was just like a bollard. Like, he'd get... as soon as the guy in front of him would swing over, it's like he pulled the parachute, and he just slows right down. So I remember just going past him, and, you know, sometimes in a TTT, it's like a chain gang, you'd call it, like 2 lines, basically. Like, as soon as you hit the front, you pass the guy, you swing over, and it looks like a chain, basically. You're just rolling through. And CJ, instead of being 2 lines, it ends up being 3. And he was stuck in the middle, just going backwards. Like, I felt for him that day.
Oh, shit. Actually, speaking of people who would stress out, like the climbers, poor Manuel Seni, his first team time trial was I'm pretty sure it was his first or second, in Romandy 2015. And we were on the start line, and he was that stressed. His heart rate, it was 151.
Before he started riding?
On the start line. He was that stressed. He finished, but he was told to sit on the back. So a lot of the guys, Quintana, you could see, even Yatesy, you can see every now and then he would just be sitting on the back and letting the time trialers and bigger guys do majority of the work. And
the most I've stressed in a TTT was when I fractured my pelvis in the Tour in 2013, and we were in Nice, and the first only like 3K there was quite a few corners, and then we got, and it was like straight roads then, so I basically had to get through this first 3K with the team. I couldn't get out the saddle, so it was all had to be in the saddle, like accelerating. I must have had about 4 coffees before it, and I was like buzzing. I was like, right, I've got to stay with them. And I managed to do it. I got onto the straight roads then, and then morale was through the roof, and I was even like pulling turns then and giving the boys a bit of help. But that was there's no worse feeling actually. I felt like that was all or nothing, that was first 3K.
Talking about bad feelings in time trials, what's it like when you catch the man in front of you? Like, is that a huge boost? And I guess because you two are good time trialists, this hasn't happened maybe since you were kids. But conversely, what's it like when you started a minute ahead of someone and then you just hear the rumble of their disc wheel and you think, oh no?
I just want to make it clear, I've been caught as a pro.
You have or haven't?
When was this?
I have. In 2014, Tour of Swiss, the TT in the middle, actually. So it was the worst day. I've never want to do it again. I don't care how bad I feel. I went easy and I got caught, I reckon, about 10 minutes in. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm going to just follow this guy. And at the end, I thought I missed time cut. So it was the worst feeling I've ever had. I'm like, I've dicked it. I've never done that before. I'm not good at this. I should never do that. I've missed time cut. He wasn't a good time trialer either. So
who was it?
Well, that's exactly right. I don't remember. That's how good he was. It was the worst feeling in the world, to be honest with you. But I think sometimes it helps a guy you catch because now they've got someone to pace against. As much as like they're not as good as us, they then have something to chase, and that's why a lot of guys can't time trial well, is because, and they're good bike riders in road races because there's someone in front of them. They can't do it all by themselves. So once they have a little carrot, they're a little bit better, and they don't actually lose as much time as if we had 3, 4, 5 minute gaps where they're not going to be caught at all.
Hey G, do you think we should do a GTCC club time trial at some point?
Yeah, it'd have to be a ruler's course, as they say. So up and down, none of this dual carriageway stuff.
Out and back.
Yeah, no, it's got to have a few corners, bit lumpy, something
Yorkshire.
happening.
Have to be Yorkshire then.
Yeah, why not? Spread the love. A TT, but then also like a hill climb, because that'll be a lot easier to organise as well. It doesn't have to be that long. Just a K. Rowan will come and do it.
Me?
Yeah, you'll come over, eh?
What if we promise to get out of the club funds from the Geraint Summer Soaking Club, we'll have to pay for your sandwiches and 2 beers, no more.
I don't need the sandwich, but I want full control over the beers that G has, just for a bit of payback.
Right, you're in.
I'm in.
Deal.
Yeah, I'm in. Yep, perfect. When's it happening though?
TBC.
So, no date for our official GTCC time trial yet, but we do have our weekly group rides on the indoor cycling app Zwift.
Yeah, come and join us, 6 p.m. every Wednesday. If you don't have Zwift yet, go to Zwift.com, start a free trial.
And Tom, you're on week 5 now of your Zwift journey. What have you tried this week?
I have done, G, week 2 of Dirt Destroyer. Take that smile off your face. And the nice thing about it this week, little cheeky bonus, I've unlocked some slightly cooler glasses, not as nice as your white rim ones, but still worth having. Cheeky pair of cycling gloves, which is always a nice touch. And it was using my FTP. Remember 2 weeks ago, I did that horrendous FTP test. Now, the reason I did it is making sense because it's gauging my training program according to me rather than some random bloke who's my height, weight and age. It's actually gauged to me, which is happy days.
Fair play, good job.
Right, as always, Geraint, I would like some tips from my fellow GTCC club members who are never going to ride at the top level. So I'm going to give you a couple of either-ors, and you tell me which of these will make me and people like me faster in the one time trial I do every year. Okay? So the first one I'm going to give you, the width of my arms on my TT bars, my tri bars, or the height of my head, if that makes sense.
Which is faster?
Yeah, do I need to get lower or do I need to get narrower?
I think get your head down. That's the priority.
Okay.
Head below your back, even better.
Okay, low head. Next one, lose a kilogram or spend $1,000 on deep rim wheels.
Before I lose a kilo.
Okay.
Save the money.
Less fun, but okay. Buy yourself an aero lid or just practice once a week, going out for half an hour and holding your tuck.
Hold the tuck, but if you've been holding the tuck for a while, treat yourself, buy a nice lid. but make sure you're going quicker than 25k an hour.
Okay, my final question, because obviously we're going to have a nice team kit for the GTCC. Do we need a GTCC skin suit, or are the sort of people in our club, like me, the sort of people who perhaps aren't flattered by a skin suit, and thus we should just stick with our ordinary jersey?
Well, I said we're a club for all, so I would initially think no, but then we also want keen, Yeah,
you're right.
Really, really good amateurs. So it's something for the future. I don't think we need that at the minute. But I think the main thing about this club is we don't take ourselves seriously. I think we can delay that. We can think about that later on down the line. At the moment, the most important thing is getting a proper chairman.
That's true.
Chairwoman. And a social person, a social sec.
Yes, okay. And then we can get our nice jersey from Paul Smith. And then once Paul has seen loads of people out in the GTCC jersey, that's when we drop him a text and say, thanks for the first one, Paul. Now there's a skin suit.
Yeah, sweet plan.
Right, G, it's that time in the pod where we discuss our any other club business. And first of all, I want to say a massive thank you to everyone who's been joining our weekly group rides on Zwift. How did you find the first week, G?
Yeah, I really enjoyed it. It was, to be honest, I was pretty tired getting on. I was thinking, is this going to be a drag? Like, no offence, but it actually wasn't. It went really fast. It was a good bit of chat between everyone. You can listen to the podcast while riding as well. So, yeah, I think it worked really well. Did you enjoy it?
I did, yeah. The chat was really good. I like chatting away to our fellow club members. The slightly weird thing for me about the pod playing in the background, because I'm in the garage on the turbo and I've got the garage door open, is that I was slightly worried the neighbours might think I was a massive bellend because I was listening to myself talking while I was on my bike. But apart from that, I did really enjoy it. And we should say, of course, that these rides are for everyone, aren't they? If you haven't tried one yet, gee, it's usually you who's going to be setting the pace. I'll sort of sit in the middle of the pack. And then those of you who want to chill out, our club secretary, Louise, is going to hang out further towards the back in the sort of chatty section. So, yeah, give her some ride-ons to help her out, because Lou's new to cycling as well. So that would definitely help her. We do have some appointments to make, as always, G, as well. First up, it's the Club Domestique. Now, I know I joked in episode 2 that basically I am the GTCC Domestique, but we've had some actual applications for this position. One of them came from George Cam. He put himself forward. George, we don't have any actual jobs for you right now, but you said in your email that you work in communication. So I reckon telling all your friends, your family about the podcast and the club would be a fantastic way to start. Also, G, Titus Carey has put his hand up to be a domestique, and he's even written a poem for us in his application. Do you want to hear it?
Yeah, come on.
Right. Titus, I hope I can do this justice. It all began back in 2011 when I fell in love with cycling heaven. Thomas Verkler took yellow, France was in shock. From Brittany to Paris, the French did flock. But oh, what a shame it wasn't to be. It was Cadel Evans who stole victory. A decade now past, time really does fly. We've even seen 3 winners from Sky. But I'll finish by saying that's all from me. I'm here to help, whatever it may be. Whatever the weather, whatever the week, oh, please, let me be your domestique.
Oh, fair play. That's a decent effort. Top effort, I'd say. Yeah, he's in. He's a domestique. A couple of things that stand out for me as well, which I was impressed by. 3 winners from Sky. Now, that, because Egan Bernal's actually won. He was the 4th, but he was riding for Ineos, so fair play. He knows his stuff, this boy. The only other thing, though, bit of a negative, I could have got a mention, a name check. That wasn't in there. So, it's not perfect, mate, by any means, but, it's good. You're in. Well done. Also, Tom, I was thinking we got quite a big committee now, haven't we? So maybe we should probably sort out membership and committee cards for everyone that's joined in our club.
Yeah, that is a really nice idea. It's a really nice idea. It's another thing for the chairman to do, which is less positive. But listen, that is my job. We'll get that sorted. I've also got one more crucial appointment to make today, G. And I think this might even be our most important one yet. Because in a previous episode, we asked you, our listeners and our club members, to leave us a kind review on Apple Podcasts. So Pete has done just that. And he's even said he'll be our lawyer if we need one, for free. So Pete, officially, we'll have you. Thank you.
Yes. Never turn down a good lawyer. Well, I don't know if he's good, but we'll never turn down a lawyer. Anyway, moving on to shout-outs. First one, Georgia, who's 12, from North Devon, has a great cycling podcast called The Cycling Talk, which she started during the first lockdown. She's just started her second season now, and so far has had guests like Luke Rowe and Alex Dowsett. So go check her out and support Georgia.
Yeah, and Stuart Phillipson wants a shout out for his Facebook group, Diamond Disciples Cycling Club, the DDCC. Now, that's all about cyclists raising awareness for all mental health issues. They've also got group meetups once a week on Swift. So if you fancy maybe adding another one to your calendar, then go and join Stuart.
And finally, a shout out to Juan Carlos Munoz. I'm not sure if I'm saying that right, but yeah, sorry, Juan, if that's wrong. But anyway, he sends his greetings from Guatemala. Let us know if you're listening anywhere else exotic, like James Travis, who said if we need an international presence, he's listening from Bahrain. So, yeah.
And also, I think what we should say, G, is if you don't happen to live somewhere exotic, if, for example, you live in Harlow or Bridgend or Stoke-on-Trent, you're also equally welcome as a member of the GTCC.
Yes, very true, very true. Everyone from Barry, come along.
Right, let's finish with an update on our club kit, shall we? Because so many people have been sending in brilliant designs.
Yeah, I've seen quite a few of these designs. So Stephen Brown, it was mostly based around Welsh colours. Who else was there? Matthew Ashcroft, also a Welsh jersey, something similar to football kit, which, yeah, that is a nice jersey, to be fair. Simon as well designed a jersey with the slogan, "Eat Welsh cakes, ride bike," and a big roaring red dragon on the back. All great designs, but I just got to say, it doesn't have to be too heavily Welsh as well, though, Tom. This is, as we just said, this is an international club, so all sorts welcome here.
Yeah, I think that's a nice touch, isn't it? I've also seen some nice mock-ups, G, from Sam Clues, from Paul Connell, Dominic Brown, David Jones and Kevin Osborne. They're all on our Facebook group. And Chris Lamb design in our logo colours is getting a lot of love on Facebook, and I can see why. I'm sort of thinking, I'm leaning towards a blue or a purple at the moment. What about you?
Yeah, blue sounding good. Blue purple's kind of our podcast icon logo thingamy-bob.
Yeah.
I'm sure there's a proper name for it, but yeah, that would work. I like that. And finally, Tam Clark, I don't know if you saw it, Tom, but he sent a cool design for the T-shirt kit. It's basically the GTCC in the shape of a person on a bike, all hand sketched, and yeah, that looks really good, to be fair.
Yeah, that is a cracker. So, G, this business section, I mean, it's getting longer and longer. Should we go home?
Yeah, well, I'm home already, mate, but yeah, I'll see you next week.
See you then. So that was the Geraint Thomas Cycling Club. Thanks, as always, go to Geraint for his insights, to me for my shambolic efforts as chairman, to our club mascot Ted, to Domestique George Cam, to our lawyer Pete, to our club secretary Louise Gouilliam, our head of music Emma Hickman, our treasurer Diane Barker, and our honorary president Mike Carr. And of course, you for listening and being part of this club. We'll see you next time.
Crowd Network, a place where you belong.